Young, and I am the Executive Director of the Southwest Fair Housing Council. Illegal housing discrimination continues to occur, unfortunately, and we are here to help the community seek justice for people that have experienced illegal housing discrimination, to seek justice and address the illegal housing discrimination that's happened. So what the need that we're addressing really is the illegal housing discrimination that people have experienced, and helping them to exercise their rights. And in doing so, we also, again, as I mentioned, provide education and outreach so that the community understands its rights and responsibilities under the Fair Housing Act. Well, I think that this is really tricky, and I think it's one of the things that's hard to understand unless you have a lot of knowledge about fair housing and kind of work in the space, because oftentimes you can't tell that you've been discriminated against. And that's why the testing that we do, as I mentioned, this undercover investigating, is so important, because these days it's rare where somebody says something overtly racist or sexist, or does something that is obviously against the Fair Housing Act. I mean, yes, obviously that does happen some, but more likely than not, you're not going to know if you've experienced discrimination. And so the reason I say that is because it emphasizes again why our testing is so important. If you go to an apartment complex and you try and rent an apartment, and you maybe take your kids with you, or let the manager know that you have children and that you're looking for an apartment, if they don't want to rent to somebody who has children, or they don't want to rent to somebody who's Hispanic, or what have you, they can just say, well, we don't have any units available right now. We can put you on a wait list. Come back next month. Here's some more information. Thanks, have a nice day. And then if, like the example of families with children, if they're really not wanting to rent to people with children, maybe somebody who's single comes up, or doesn't have children with them, and asks to rent an apartment. Maybe they show that person 3 units that are available and tell them about a special, and then follow up later with a phone call. Hey, thanks for coming by, wondering if you're still interested. But you would never know if you were the first person and they didn't show you any units and said they didn't have anything available. How would you know that? And so that's where testing comes in, and we can do testing to show how people are being treated differently based on their protected class. So I think, I usually like to encourage people, if something seems strange, if something seems out of sorts, or you just kind of get a feeling in your gut that, maybe you're experiencing discrimination or something isn't quite right when you're, going to get a mortgage, or you're trying to rent an apartment, just give us a call and we can help determine whether or not something has happened that maybe you were unaware of, again, through our testing program. So obviously, if somebody experiences something that's overtly racist or overtly sexist, or somebody says, well, we don't rent to families with children here, or if you have a kid, we're not going to rent to you, that's pretty obvious. But again, if it's less obvious, or somebody kind of has an idea that maybe something has happened, I think the best thing to do is to contact us, and we can help people figure that out. That's a really great question, and it's critical that people become fair housing advocates, because the discriminatory housing policies that we had in this country in the early 20th century and before, but particularly before the Fair Housing Act, has caused us to have a housing market where there are neighborhoods where it's all white, or neighborhoods where it's all black, or very segregated by race and ethnicity. And in order to have the type of society that Martin Luther King Jr. envisioned, uh, we need to address those issues. And it will take people becoming fair housing advocates and demanding that change, that we address the wrongs of the past and that we continue to address the things that are going on today. Again, people really, I encourage people to really look at the history of housing in this country. I think people are surprised to know just how explicitly and overtly racist, in particular, the housing policy, again, from the federal level on down, was for so many years in this country. The first thing that I would encourage people to do if they want to become a fair housing advocate is really understand that history. And I think a great place to start is by reading the book, The Color of Law by Richard Rothstein. It's an excellent history of how we got where we are today in terms of housing and housing segregation and all of the policies and other things that went into creating that. And also towards the end of the book has some ideas and suggestions about how we can address those issues. So I think, again, really understanding the history of housing and fair housing in this country is a great place to start to become a fair housing advocate.